So, Mariana, we are talking Thursday morning, and President-elect Donald Trump is picking people to serve in his administration. And late yesterday, he made this one pick that caught a lot of people off guard, and that is Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Gaetz is now a former Republican congressman from Florida, and the Attorney General oversees the Department of Justice. So, Mariana, how did this pick land on Capitol Hill?
With a big bomb. I mean, it was such a shock that reverberated across the Capitol, and House Republicans were actually meeting off campus as they themselves were debating their own leadership team. And some members that I talked to said that people legitimately just gasped in the room.
Mariana Sotomayor covers Congress for The Post. She says Gaetz is a divisive Republican who has stymied a lot of legislation. He's a staunch Trump ally, and he's repeatedly attacked the FBI, which is under the DOJ. Here he is at a July 2023 hearing with FBI Director Christopher Wray.
Don't you see that that's kind of the thing, Director Wray, that you preside over the FBI that has the lowest level of trust in the FBI's history? People trusted the FBI more when J. Edgar Hoover was running the place than when you are. And the reason is because you don't give straight answers.
Gaetz has also been accused of sexual misconduct. He was investigated by the Justice Department. Gaetz has denied any wrongdoing.
So many House Republicans absolutely loathe Matt Gaetz. He has constantly been a thorn on leadership side, on many of the members' sides, that he is just someone who has never really been liked, except for a very select few members of the MAGA crew that he hangs out with in the House.
This pick comes after Trump made some other eyebrow-raising picks to serve in his administration, like Fox News host and combat veteran Pete Hegseth for defense secretary. He also chose former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who has no direct experience in intelligence, to be the director of national intelligence.
It really started to set in, I would say, across the Capitol, including Senate Republicans, about the fact that Trump has been making some pretty controversial picks, but this, in choosing Matt Gaetz, is just a whole other level of, whoa, what is going on here? Really what this says about Trump is that he is picking loyalists to be part of his cabinet. Qualifications truly do not matter, it seems like, in some of these picks. And as much as Republicans on Capitol Hill were starting to question why he chose a Fox News anchor, Pete Hegseth, to be defense secretary, Matt Gaetz is just a whole other level for Attorney General, especially since he himself has been under investigation by the Justice Department.
From the newsroom of The Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Elahe Izadi. It's Thursday, November 14th. Today, why Matt Gaetz as an Attorney General pick is so controversial, even among Republicans. Mariana explains what this nomination tells us about how Trump will govern and how it could help Trump push the limits of his power. So, Mariana, tell me a little bit more about why Trump picking Gaetz is so controversial. Like, what are some of his controversies?
Yeah, so he is definitely one to go against the grain. You know, he is someone who has gone outside of the D.C. jail, where there are a number of people who were arrested for trespassing on January 6th during the Capitol insurrection. He has spread theories that, you know, these people are innocent.
We know this. January 6th last year wasn't an insurrection. No one has been charged with insurrection. No one has been charged with treason. But it very well may have been a Fedsurrection.
He's someone who has invited Holocaust deniers, for example, to the State of the Union and has made a number of anti-Semitic remarks.
This weekend, he blasted the Anti-Defamation League, whose mission statement is literally, quote, to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment to all.
He's also someone, when he talks about, for example, border security and migrants coming into this country, he's actually spews white nationalist great replacement theory.
Gaetz called the ADL, quote, a racist organization because they were critical of Tucker Carlson's racist replacement theory drivel that we talked about on Friday night.
And doesn't shy away from endorsing that, which is essentially the belief that Democrats are trying to ensure that a number of undocumented migrants come to the U.S. and also vote so that they can get reelected and essentially, quote unquote, wipe out white Americans and what they believe in from the country.
And so Gaetz resigned from the House on Wednesday. But Mariana, is there anything more on his background, anything more about him we should know?
Yeah, so probably the most significant one is that he was actually under investigation by the Department of Justice. Yes, the Justice Department that he would hypothetically lead as Attorney General if confirmed, because he was accused of having a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl and sex trafficking. This has haunted him for several years, and he has repeatedly and very loudly denied that he has paid for sex and has had underage relationships.
So this is obviously a serious allegation. Tell us what the truth is from your perspective.
It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case.
Ultimately, the Justice Department decided not to press any charges on that front, but it did not stop the House Ethics Committee from continuing to investigate Gaetz. The House Ethics Committee is actually a bipartisan committee, and it is represented by an equal number of Republican and Democrats. They never, ever, ever, ever talk about investigations except for certain press releases that come out. And it has been such an annoyance to Gaetz that this committee has continued to investigate him for something even the Justice Department has said that they would not press charges on. We don't know, obviously, for certain, given how secretive this committee is, that that's what they're investigating him for, but the investigation is ongoing. And one thing that is actually pretty critical to the timing of all of this is the fact that the House Ethics Committee was going to vote this week on whether to release the full report on their investigation into Gaetz. The committee has to stop doing any kind of work. They cannot, for example, call any more witnesses if and when a member resigns from Congress. But the report appears to be ready, and the committee is still set to vote on potentially releasing it as soon as Friday.
Wow. Mariana, right now, I'd like to actually go back a little bit more and remind us what kind of Republican Matt Gaetz was in the House of Representatives. His name has come up in recent years when there was a lot of drama in the House. Can you just remind us, what he did and what kind of reputation he has?
Yeah, there's always been a lot of drama around Gaetz, and some of it is what he had created himself. So he was elected to Congress and very quickly wanted to make a name for himself. You often saw him on a number of television programs, I would add, including MSNBC, which is known to skew a little bit more liberal. He would love to get into fights with anchors, and it was at a time where lawmakers realized, okay, I can probably reach more audiences if I am more vocal, if I am on mainstream media more. And he was totally unafraid to criticize party leaders, to criticize his own fellow Republicans. And that kind of started to ensure there were a number of lawmakers who just didn't like him. And, when it came to party leadership, he was always one to be the no vote. Whether it's funding the government, whether it's sending money to Ukraine, he's probably part of that very small group that voted against such measures.
Well, and I remember he clashed a lot with former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, right, Mariana? Can you remind me about that?
McCarthy was a member of House Republican leadership for a very long time, a Republican from California. He always had his sights on being Speaker. And he and Gaetz just always had a really bad relationship. It was like the worst kept secret ever. So Gaetz would always do his usual thing and, you have to win over my vote and I'm going to make it hard for you. And that was really tested when Republicans won back the majority in 2022, and Kevin McCarthy, then the minority leader, was ready to become speaker. And Gaetz ended up being one of the last votes. And remember that the Armed Services chairman, Mike Rogers, almost decked Gaetz in the face.
Wait, I'm sorry, he almost punched him?
That all happened in public. Yes, this was right.
Oh my gosh.
Republicans were already so upset. They already really hate Gaetz that we physically saw Mike Rogers, Republican from Alabama, almost punch him in the face. He was restrained. There's pictures of this. You can look this up online.
Mariana, what do you cover, the House, or do you cover World Wrestling Federation? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's been quite an unprecedented time.
But anyway, like, that happened, right?
That happened, and then fast forward, and Matt Gaetz is the sole member who raises his hand and says, I want to hold a vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. He gets 7 Republicans to come along with him. And that was the end of Kevin McCarthy as a member of Congress.
Yeah, and McCarthy has blamed Gaetz directly for that, like here at an event at Georgetown University in April.
And I'll give you the truth why I'm not Speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old. An ethics complaint that started before I ever became Speaker, and that's illegal, and I'm not going to get in the middle. Did he do it or not? I don't know, but ethics is looking at it.
And we should say Gaetz denied he tried to do this for this reason and called McCarthy, quote, a liar. But Mariana, what about Gaetz's credentials in general to serve as Attorney General? Is he a lawyer?
So he is a lawyer. He went to law school and he briefly worked in private practice. And then he ran for the Florida House of Representatives. So he hasn't been a practicing lawyer for a long time. He was actually briefly disbarred because he had outstanding dues, but he currently is now a Florida lawyer who remains in good standing. But interestingly, if he is confirmed as Attorney General, he'd be the first Attorney General in 4 decades to have never served as a government attorney or judge.
So, okay, that definitely paints a very clear picture for me. You know, one thing that you said, though, Mariana, that stands out to me is that Matt Gaetz himself was investigated by the Department of Justice. And I want to understand a little bit more, you know, before we even get into whether he will in fact be doing this, what kind of attorney general would he be? We should say that the DOJ oversees the FBI, Drug Enforcement Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. This is a really big job. What kind of attorney general would he be?
I think that is a question that many people have. We've never really seen him in a leadership role, right? And this is probably one of the biggest ones ever. He's probably not going to take anyone's advice who's previously served in the Justice Department and is going to be totally loyal to Trump and probably try and enact everything he can that Trump wants him to do.
After the break, Mariana explains why Matt Gaetz is not a shoo-in for Attorney General. We'll be right back. Okay, so Mariana, now we know a little bit more about Matt Gaetz. And as you've said, he is a Trump loyalist. What does it mean for Trump to have someone who is so loyal to him be in charge of the Department of Justice?
It means a whole lot. I mean, we have heard from Trump time and time again on the campaign trail talking about loyalty and fealty and wanting to potentially go after politicians, American citizens, and his quest for retribution. That is something that Gaetz agrees with, that I would say it's not something you often hear Republicans on Capitol Hill saying, yes, we are totally behind Trump on just going after American civilians, lawmakers, journalists, etc., without any probable cause. So that is the extreme, I would say, of Gaetz in such a position. He is someone who, of course, is so loyal to Trump. He'll probably do whatever Trump asks him to do. And that's pretty significant because Trump says one of his problems of his first administration was that, there were these long-term public servants who often would block more extreme demands that he would make. He's someone who wants to reform the federal government. And Matt Gaetz has been probably, if not the first in line, right next to whoever is the first in line to make sure that Trump is able to do that.
But beyond him just being a loyalist, why do you think Trump picked him?
Honestly, that may just be it. I mean, we're really looking into a number of the cabinet picks that Trump has already put out there. And a lot of them, kind of like Gaetz, haven't necessarily had a very robust career that prepares them for the roles that he has picked them to serve in. And it really is coming down to loyalty. And I can even say from Capitol Hill, we're just hearing from a number of Republicans, as excited as they are, that Republicans have full control of Washington, that they are going to be able to pass conservative agendas, et cetera. They're also bracing for Trump's pressure hammer to come down, as someone described it to us. Like, they really are bracing for the whims that they remember of the first Trump administration. And at the end of the day, being pressured by Trump and a number of his allies, not to mention the base, to tell them what to do, even though they themselves may not want to on a number of issues.
So wait, this is kind of interesting because in some ways you could look at this pick of Matt Gaetz and think, oh, Trump is really trying to stick it to Democrats. But what you're saying is even Republicans on Capitol Hill are wondering and bracing themselves for, as excited as they are that Trump won and that they have control, is he trying to stick it to Republicans and exert and show them, like, I'm actually in control of the party?
Totally. And unsurprisingly, the more moderate Republicans are a bit more nervous about this. The House majority is actually going to be narrower than what it was the last 2 years, and we saw how that went. It's probable that those moderate members are already thinking about their chances of even being able to win in 2026 if Trump is hammering them to pass potentially unorthodox policies. And, a lot of the attention is going to be on Senate Republicans again, because it is a narrow majority. They only need a majority to pass and confirm Trump's cabinet, judges, et cetera. It really is going to put the spotlight on a number of more, let's call them pragmatic Senate Republicans who, at the end of the day, are going to make the decision about whether some of these cabinet picks end up serving.
Yeah, let's talk about that now. Let's use Matt Gaetz. If he does go through the normal confirmation and nomination process, there will be these confirmation hearings. What are you expecting, or what will you be watching for at that time during those hearings?
So the Senate Judiciary Committee is filled with a lot of lawyers who are going to go through every single thing about Matt Gaetz. So I am sure that the hearing is going to be quite a thing to watch. Republican lawmakers also agree. They have joked that it will be the kind of hearing where you want to grab your popcorn and it's going to be must-watch TV simply because of Gaetz's nature and what's likely to be publicly aired at this hearing. Once the hearing ends, the Senate Judiciary Committee will again meet at a certain point to actually vote him out of committee. So that is step one. And it is possible, just given how Republicans had previously operated on this committee when Trump also made controversial appointments to be part of his cabinet, they usually respect the fact that all senators should vote on a cabinet position. So it's possible we will see Gaetz, let's say hypothetically, move out of committee for a floor vote. Then the Senate will vote, and Gaetz would need a majority of senators to be able to be officially confirmed as Attorney General.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is it's not a slam dunk that Matt Gaetz would be confirmed by a full Senate vote, even if he makes it out of committee. Is it a slam dunk? Is there another way he could become the AG?
Not a slam dunk if the Senate is in session. There's this really interesting, very curious, arcane rule. And it's actually something that Trump dangled over Senate Republicans running to be majority leader over the last several days. And it's called recess appointments. So essentially, when the Senate is not in session, they are in recess. They're back home in their states. Trump put out a statement on his social media, Truth Social, saying that the 3 senators running for majority leader to replace Mitch McConnell, who will be stepping down from that role at the end of the year, they had to allow for recess appointments. So you can actually technically confirm any cabinet position without the Senate being in session.
So, I mean, just like stepping back from all of like the minutiae and intricacies of that, is it possible that someone like Matt Gaetz could end up being attorney general without senators voting on him?
It is possible. Whether now future Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, actually allows that to happen is a question. And that really is going to be his first test as Majority Leader.
Mariana, what else will you be paying attention to as you follow, the journey of Matt Gaetz here?
It'll be interesting if he returns to Capitol Hill. Any former lawmaker can go onto the House floor. So I'm sure there are many Republicans who don't necessarily want to see him or hang out with him. And it'll also be interesting to see if more Senate Republicans, do they come out in the next couple of weeks and say, like, there's no way I'm voting for him, to send signals to Trump and his transition team to start thinking about plan B or option B. That'll be something that I know we're all going to be watching and asking about.
Well, Mariana, thank you so much for taking time to explain all this.
Of course, happy to.
Mariana Sotomayor covers Congress for The Post. After we recorded this conversation, Trump made another controversial pick for his cabinet, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. RFK Jr. is a known vaccine skeptic, and the choice for him to lead the nation's top health agency is causing a stir among public health experts. The Post is reporting on so many other stories today. So before we go, here are a couple more that I wanted to share with you. First, a Post exclusive. Israel wants to give a, quote, gift to Donald Trump, a ceasefire plan for Lebanon. Israel invaded southern Lebanon in September as part of its military campaign against Hezbollah. But now, Israeli officials are telling the Post that Israel is rushing to advance a ceasefire deal. So why is Israel doing this? Well, Trump is seen as an ally to Israel's far-right government, and his victory has emboldened Israeli hardliners. So their hope is to deliver Trump an early foreign policy win. Trump has said he wants an end to the wars in the Middle East. But he also told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a call last month to, quote, do what you have to do. It's not clear what impact, if any, a Lebanon deal would have on Gaza. Ceasefire and hostage talks on that front have stalled. And there's a new owner of the far-right website InfoWars. It's The Onion, the satirical news website. On Wednesday, The Onion bought InfoWars during a private auction. And InfoWars, of course, was founded by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
They're buying a company to get the equipment, the name, and money that's in InfoWars.
Jones railed against the news on his show.
Again, it's insane.
Jones was forced to sell InfoWars after a bankruptcy judge ordered him to pay about $1.5 billion in damages. This was over Jones's claims that the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting was a hoax. According to The Onion's CEO Ben Collins, the company is proud to acquire InfoWars. He said The Onion looks forward to continuing InfoWars' quote, storied tradition of scaring the site's users with lies until they fork over their cold, hard cash. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. If you're looking for the latest updates on the big news of the day, you should check out our morning news briefing, The 7. We bring you the 7 stories you need to know about every weekday morning by 7 a.m. I listen to it every morning, and it's really helpful. And you can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Laura Benshoff with help from Ariel Plotnick and Emma Taukoff. It was mixed by Rennie Svirnovsky and edited by Monica Campbell with help from Maggie Penman and Rena Flores. Thanks to Emily Rahala. I'm Elahe Izadi. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories from The Washington Post.